Welcome to another episode of Paleteras Con Chile. I am producer Joel, and this week we're doing something a little different. Our hosts are actually going to get interviewed by none other than Mitú's editor-in-chief, Yamily Habib. She went ahead and wrote an amazing article on Las Paleteras. You could find it at wearemitú.com, or you could go ahead and find it on the episode description. So make sure that you go ahead and take a read right after you listen to this amazing episode. Enjoy.
One of the things people often don't know is that the Latino community is the biggest demographic of consumers of podcasts, whether it's in the US, whether it's in whole Latin America. And when I did the research, there are not as many Latino podcasts out there, but Latino queer podcasts, even less. What was the idea behind Las Paleteras? How did that come to be?
¿Quién quiere tomarla? Jose Richard, you want to come in from your perspective?
No, I think you should do it.
I was going to say, Ana Sheila, do you want to take it off?
Okay, dale. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, the three of us have been, we're queer Latina people. We've been in media spaces. We've been creating. And I had a podcast called Tamarindo. I'm like, ya se me está olvidando, ya ha sido tanto tiempo. I'm here present with our current podcast, but it was called Tamarindo Podcast. It was a podcast. And what I felt, my perspective on why I wanted to start Las Paleteras, and I'd love for Nalgona and César to jump in, is that what I was missing from that podcast is I wanted it to feel more joyful. And I wanted that really strong kind of queer perspective. And I think that in a way that I think queer people, maybe it's because of the trauma that we've been through, but the way that we experience and share our joy es único, es hermoso. And that's what I wanted to bring to Latino and Latina audiences was queer joy, like, o sea, sin límites, sin just that full expression que es messy, que es, like I said, que es hermoso, but that also really shows kind of the work that we've had to do to be able to connect with our joy is a lot of healing, is a lot of self work, ¿verdad? Because, I think all of us have probably had some really dark moments in the process of accepting and loving ourselves and being able to express that broadly with our community. There's a lot of work that goes into queer people being able to express that joy, and that's what I wanted to bring audiences. And I wanted it not only just to be for queer folk, but also just our broader Latine and just broader community, just seeing that a lot of those folks that aren't part of our LGBTQ plus community, they haven't been pushed to do the work like a lot of us have, and hopefully seeing our liberation also liberates them as well.
What do you think, César?
No, yeah, I think everything Ana Sheila said is like spot on. But also when Jose Richard and Ana Sheila were telling me about the project, I was very intrigued that we were going to talk on so many different topics. Because I feel like we're all involved in different industries, but we're all like working community always. Like I work in marketing as well, entertainment marketing, and then I've been diving into like acting and writing, and Jose Richard does a lot of poetry and a lot of comedy and a lot of activist work. And I feel like we've all been able to share those perspectives, grow and heal along the way. And then also bring in people that we really admire to give them a platform and to talk about their journey. So that has been like a really cool experience that really intrigued me as part of the project as well, to be able to tap into our different communities and bring in folks that we want to spotlight, we want to give them a voice, and have them part of the podcast as well. So it's been really fun to have very special guests on the podcast, dive into like very specific conversations that sometimes are a little hard to have with our family or with our loved ones, and really just grow together across the last like three seasons.
And Jose Richard, do you prefer I call you Jose Richard or Nalgona?
Whichever is fine. I don't mind. I think everything that everyone said. I think for me personally, I mean, I was also part of I had a podcast before this as well, called Fruta Fresca. And to be honest, I just didn't want to do it alone. It's a lot of work to do it on your own. And so it was like, okay, cool. It's always fun to be in conversation. And it's just a different format when you're the only host and, having to bring in other people as well. Just kind of made it a little bit more fun. I enjoy the boundaries of what I do. I produce a lot in my day job, and so I didn't want to produce on my non-day job. And so that was really it, to be honest.
Oh, and I was gonna say another thing too. As we were working, it felt like we were working with like primos. Like we're like such a big Latino family, so it's always nice to like, I don't know, work across each other. And I had a podcast when I was in school in Chicago with Univision, and like it was called Entre Primos. It was like a Univision like student podcast, and we just talked about like sports, politics, and culture. So I kind of missed having that. So when Sheila and Nalgona were like, we have this project, I was like, oh, perfect, another opportunity to just like rant and talk about random things. So it was nice to just like have that as well.
What I think is more important than anything is visibility, because in the end, representation not always gives us the visibility that we would hope. Why was the project so important for you? Because if I understand well, you guys come from activism as well. So you are well embedded in what matters to this community. And why is that this format so useful for that?
I think for me, primarily, what was interesting about this particular format is that we're also different types of queers in our different lived experiences, who we're attracted to. I mean, I've said this many times on the podcast in season 1. The one thing I didn't want to become was another podcast that said, here are 5 tips to be a better bottom. It was like, no, like we need to expand beyond the sexuality and what the type of content is that we're creating. Particularly, I think one of my favorite episodes continues to be the episode on aging. We come to find out on the podcast that we're all the oldest child. And so there's all these pressures of being the oldest. We all are the ones who, went off to like college and got all the other degrees. And the pressures that comes with. And then on top of that, you add being queer. And so I think it was a really fun way to have conversations that we're not having, or at least gay men are not having on like a mainstream. These are not the things that you're going to see go viral, but it's like, amiga, we've been trying to, be more than who we sleep with since the 80s. It's why the term queer was invented in the first place. And so I have my own radical views on like why this podcast, I think it's very different. And we said it in the beginning, that's why it's called Las Paleteras, because we truly are like paletas. We come in different flavors and different shapes, and I really appreciate that dynamic that we all have built throughout the last couple of seasons. And so it's really fun. That to me, I think, was very important, and to really complexify the narrative of being a queer subject.
Yeah, and I think that kind of jumping off that, I think we are all still learning about each other, and we had an episode called La Escuelita. I forget what we called it, but like La Escuelita Queer, where we actually quizzed each other about experiences that queer women or queer men or non-binary folks have. And it was interesting, the things that we didn't know about each other in our little subset of our community. And I think that we also kind of come to the show with that cultural humility, de que todos todavía estamos aprendiendo. And so how can we, in what we share with our audience, also acknowledge that folks are different places along the journey, and how do we have grace for our families and our communities, and that we have to, because look, we're still learning about each other. How can we expect our community to already be where we are when we've been doing this work for a long time? So we also kind of bring that into, we're gonna tell you the things, but we also have, and we're gonna call you in. There's accountability, but accountability con grace.
Yeah.
There's one thing super interesting that you said, Nalgona, that you are all the oldest, right? Mm-hmm. And I think there are many layers. There was a book that was published by the first editor of the first gay magazine in UK. The book was called How to Be Gay and Happy. And one of the first things that he says is that we feel this unconscious but very conscious need to overachieve, as if there was something that we need to compensate for. Like, look, I'm gay, but I'm also the most hardworking, I'm educated. I live it myself as I always say this and people laugh, but I'm a traditional lesbian woman. You know, the traditional, whatever the traditional thing is, I am. I live in a house in the prairie with a bunch of animals, birds, dogs. I grow my own food.
What kind of car do you drive? Do you have a Jeep or Subaru?
I love it. I'm jealous.
I have a 2006 Land Rover.
Okay.
So it's a truck.
Yeah.
I bring my own wood. But it took years to own that, precisely because of what Nalgona was saying, is because I always felt that I needed to compensate for something that was organically wrong with me. Now, if you add to that the layer of being Latino, a person of color, in a country that doesn't understand intersectionality or interculturality, then the debate is more complicated, yet you guys make it look so fun that it's almost, at one point, I watched almost all of the seasons before we came to this call, and I was like, you make it look as if it's fun. Being queer is fun. Which in my experience, I always ask my gay friends this, and I would love to ask you guys this. If you were born again and you were given the choice, would you be gay or queer?
All the time.
Or not?
100%.
I have a very cute poem where I say, when I meet my creator, I will ask them to make me queer and queer again in every lifetime. I've learned to love this hard in the name of the ancestors who had to love in secret. And I think it's truly that, to what you were saying. I like what you mentioned, I'm queer, but, and I think what I've discovered in our own journeys, because I think it looks very different for Ana, Sheila, and César and I, but I think what we've discovered, in my opinion, in season 3 is that we've all gotten to a point where it's, I'm queer and. It's no longer a but. And I think personally, in my experience as the oldest and all the things that it means as like a Latino, as a child of immigrants, I've been able to get to a place both professionally as an urban planner and doing arts and culture, and also within my family. I always say that I'm tired of code switching. I'm no longer doing it. If anyone's doing the code switching, it's the Institute. So I can show up in a room full of architects and engineers, hella queer, hella brown, and hella hood. Like, I'm done. And you know, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that I've been able to do that with the hardest critics, which is my family. You know what I mean? Like, I show up for my family being me, and then can't tell me nothing about it, because they've known like all the things that they wanted me to accomplish. I did, and then I did some, you know, and so now I get to show up with this authenticity that I think it's such a privilege and such an honor to arrive to the queer and, you know, because I think so much, to your point, Yamily, also growing up with that queer but and having to overcompensate and having to like, let me be this extraordinary being, and then you come to find out that it's like, girl, I'm not extraordinary. Is that everyone else is basic?
You're setting the bar high, though. You're setting the bar high.
That. I want to just add to that, because I'm glad that you asked that question, because I actually have been reflecting on that question recently, and it makes me emotional, because to be able to say, if I could choose, I would choose to be queer in every lifetime. To be able to arrive at that answer and say it with my chest. It's not something I could have said, you know, like a decade ago. So to be here now, it's a reflection of the work. It's a reflection of the community, the supportive community we have. And what I've come to, like, what I've realized is, yes, life has been harder at times because of my queer identity, but it couldn't be more beautiful. It couldn't be more beautiful than it is, because I am queer. And I feel in gratitude with my creator. I do have a spiritual practice, because I think it's also has made me a better person. And I'm in gratitude for the ways in which the difficulties and struggles that I've had and we've had allow me to have made me a more empathetic person to the struggles of others. So I'm in deep gratitude for being queer. Yeah.
And I was gonna say the same thing. I feel like I couldn't imagine coming back to life not as like a queer Latino. You know what I mean? Like make me Latino, like any kind. Make sure I'm gay. But like you said, like we make it look fun. But I feel like along the way too, like a lot of the times humor is a way of us coping through the struggles and finding community and finding shared experiences. And there's been so many times too where we're like laughing but crying at the same time, and we're like, oh my god, I forgot about that traumatic experience. And now that we're all in community, it's like we're not alone in a lot of like the struggles that we've had, which is really nice to like find someone that's queer and you guys, we all have like a struggle that we like share, and then we just know that there's like a big support system. So it's been also really beautiful to laugh, cry along the way. I know there's been times when Sheila and Nalgona cry and we're all like we need a pause, we need a break, and like this is another topic we could dive in deeper. So it's been nice to just like have a place where we could laugh, cry, reflect, and grow. And then also with our listeners too, like this is a safe space, like, and you should feel like you're at home and you have a place, or you have someone that connects with you at some level.
Yeah, and literally César actually started started going to therapy like while we were in one of our seasons. Like,
you know, ha cambiado. No, I'm kidding. I think I've seen the changes from like season 1 to season 3. But yeah, it was nice that like I could like share these experiences and then go to my therapist and be like, oh my god, I kind of forgot about this X, Y, and Z that happened to me years ago. Or like, I feel like a lot of times being the oldest sibling, we're like on survivor mode. We're like, we have like our goals and we're just like, so much shit has happened to us that like, a veces los pasa por la cabeza, but having time to like sit and reflect on like the struggles and like what you've had to overcome, things that you might have let go of to like continue forward. And now it gives us time to like go back to some relationships with my family and like really set time to like grow those relationships. I maybe in the past I kind of just like pushed to the side to like focus on my goals. So yeah,
it kind of works as a group therapy in the end, because one thing that as queer people or part of the LGBTQ plus community, one of the traits is that you don't have that immediate feedback, because, and this is me being radical, but again, I stand by what I say, society has designed a format for us to be separated. If you separate them, then it's easier to control them. But when we come together and they see the strength that we have and how we can support each other, then the conversation changes. One that bears a question, and completely understand if you don't want to answer it, but how old are you?
Soy 30 y sexy.
30 y sexy.
I'm 35.
I just turned 30.
Okay, so I'm the eldest here. Okay, but it does take a while to come to terms with many things. I mean, which is another thing that I wanted to ask you about the podcast. What do you wish a younger queer person who maybe is still in the closet or maybe is struggling with dealing with coming out to your family, especially a Latino family, if they see you on the other side of the tunnel, what do you want them to see or to feel?
I'm not going to say it gets better because I hated that stupid slogan in 2008. And come for me, the Trevor Project. I don't care.
You're like, it gets worse. No, I'm kidding.
I mean, kind of, sort of, with the policies behind it. Girl, ponte lista, ponte la armadura, because we're about to go to war. Like, listen, we've been doing it for a long time. We can pass on the strategies, right? We can learn from our organizing friends in the 80s and the 70s. You know what? Funny enough, I do believe that I think a lot of younger people, in the way that I remember organizing at like 15 and having a lot of people who were around and organizing during the AIDS epidemic, like that sort of like passing of oral histories, I think it's something we need to do with younger generations. Like,
yes.
You know what I mean? Like, people should know about like what the AIDS quilt is and why that project was very big. You know, people should know why we have in the state of California something like Harvey Milk Day, who Sylvia Rivera is, Gwen Araujo, like all those different things. I'm grateful for the queer elders that I had in my life that trained me in that way. So I think it's now more than telling the young generation what to expect on the other side. I think it's more for me of a commitment to be like, I don't come alone, and so I come with community. That's who raised me and put me in the places that I'm at. So how can I extend that? You know, how can I be something? I'm thinking particular here in Los Angeles, models of change. What used to happen at Occidental College many years ago, pero it's like a conference that's rooted for young people to see older queer folks and to there be this mentorship. Because I think a lot of the times, you know, for me, I'm grateful that I had some sort of blueprints. Now there's plenty of them, you know what I mean? So I will say, like, for queer folk, young people now, I enjoy the journey. Just don't feel guilty about your desires, and fuck anyone who makes you feel guilty about them. You know, they look and change so different. Like Ana Sheila said, like at 35, I'm discovering my pansexuality and my attraction to straight couples. Like, you know, it's so, listen, I'm having a great time at 35. Like, queerness is constantly changing and evolving, and so what it is today is not going to be the same tomorrow, and, you know, just have fun.
No, yeah, that's like a perfect point, because it might get harder before it gets better, but I feel like at the end of the day, it's such a beautiful journey of like self-discovery, growth, and only you could like make that journey for yourself. So I feel like it's always going to get better, but you have to put in the work. You have to like get out of your comfort zone, find the right community to kind of help guide you along the way. But yeah, Nalgona makes a really good point. We need to know our history. We need to keep the traditions alive and just make sure people know, like, if we have the opportunity to bring another queer folk up, we have to continue to do it too.
I was expecting what you said, just because I didn't want to be the one to bring it forth. I do think that podcasts like Las Paleteras are important for that other reason. This is not a question, but more of a... There's a whole generation of LGBTQ plus people, especially Latinos, who don't know that we lost a complete generation of men to the AIDS epidemic. They don't know why the L goes first on the LGBTQ plus. They don't know why, especially now that you see it more often, bars or clubs that are exclusive for men, for gay cis men, because they want to be close to the rest. You see it here in Europe a lot. Or you see fewer queer and inclusive places. So there are no places for us to sit together, talk, and explain what happened, because part of the queer history has been oral history. No pun intended. But I do think that is super important. So your podcast, have you guys ever discussed bringing someone that's younger or way younger to have this conversation on the podcast?
No, that's a really good idea.
César was our baby, pero él ya también se está poniendo viejo.
I know.
No,
ya pasó mi tiempo.
And I mean a 20-year-old, 21-year-old.
Like a young
like
Gen
very,
Z.
like...
Yeah, we haven't had the youth on the show yet. That's a great idea.
We almost brought our siblings, like our younger siblings, into the show, but the coordinating of it didn't work out. But that's a really good point, to bring someone like 18, 19, 20, who's like, it's a whole other generation. Like, they have a lot more rights, I guess, in a way now than like folks back like 20, 15 years ago. So it's kind of different how they like, maybe their high school, middle school situation is a little different than ours now. But yeah, that's a really good point, because there's a lot we could learn from them and they could learn from us as well.
I think one thing that is different though, it's the language. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like, as someone who's been organizing for a long time, I mean, I have seen the way in which LGBT rights has changed and shifted in my lifetime. I mean, 1996 is the year when Ellen DeGeneres' character on her talk show comes out as queer, and it's the first time that we have a queer character openly come out on broadcasted TV. And so from that, since 1996 till now, we have had so many ways, right, in which like preferred gender pronouns, I was using them when I was like 14, but that was like hella radical. And now all of a sudden everybody in their corporate world has their PGPs at the end. Click here if you want to know more. And so there definitely has been an evolution, but I think you point out something like the history of the blood sisters, you know what I mean, to your point of why the L goes first. And a lot of people don't know that during the AIDS epidemic, like nobody wanted to be at the bedside of gay men who were in the hospital for AIDS. So it was like a group of lesbian women in San Diego that got together and donated the blood because people didn't know what was happening and nobody wanted to donate blood to queer men at that time, to gay men at the time. And so you have this group of like lesbian organizers, the Blood Sisters, who are at the bedside. And I think it's that show of like intersectional coalition building that I think we need now more than ever, particularly as we're talking about, like, I believe, I say this in my day job a lot, but I'm like, we're at a point now where we need a multiracial class coalition, and that also involves queer folks, because Gloria and Saldua said it best, right? Like, we are literally have lovers, and we can be kinship to every race and to every form of lived experience because we have lovers and all of those lived experience, and that we as queer people get to be the bridges. I know, tell me you're an academic without telling me you're an academic. I'm quoting bitches and shit. Pero no, sí, to your point, right? Like, these oral histories, I think, are so needed. But that'd be kind of fun to bring in a young person and be like, a ver, amiga, ¿qué sabes?
Especially because, and this is another question that I had for you. When you mentioned Ellen DeGeneres, but for Latinos, or for us Latinas, for example, I remember the first time I saw a lesbian or someone I knew they were intentionally represented as lesbians on screen was the L word, and I had to hide to see it and then figure out, okay, so this is real, this was not in my head, this was not. For Latinas, we had that representation, but no one wanted to translate it. I mean, no one wanted to say that Chabela Vargas was a lesbian. Mm-hmm. They said, no, muy buena cantante de rancheras, que rancheras tan hermosas, como lo siente. A straight woman, I don't want to say, but what was the representation that you guys grew up with? Latino representation.
I mean,
Latino and queer?
Ricky Martin.
Cuando se casó con Bárbara, we were all like, girl, ¿cómo date cuenta, amiga?
Oh, he got married with se casó con una mujer, Jody? I missed that.
Yeah, girl.
Early on.
But I mean, I think the classics, there's so many for sure. But like, Francis, I think, was interesting at the time, and having the representation that she had, and she was on shows as a trans woman. We didn't know what to call her, I think, in the way that we are now have like icons like Wendy Guevara, who revolutionized and changed Mexican television. Now you have Karina Torres on this season of La Casa de los Famosos, which I'm definitely watching. All those different things for sure. And then the classics like Juan Gabriel and Walter Mercado. I mean, it's the, I've shared this, I think, on the podcast before. Like, my dad le pone apodos a todo mundo, and it's like a horrible way of showing love and through all their own trauma. And he calls me Juanga, and I love it. I think it's my way of knowing that he knows that I know of my queerness without it being like offensive at all. And it's like, particularly in a time and place where we're in the cancel culture, like I'm not going to cancel my father. Out of all the people, I'm grateful that you call me a famous cantautor mexicano. I take it,
The best.
Que han existido.
The best, exactly.
But Nalgona, so because that's the only way up until now that he's acknowledged your queerness. Is that right?
I mean, there's been many forms, but I think this is the most beautiful and authentic way. Mm-hmm. And the one that feels, again, going to what I said earlier, I think it's only because I have made it's the queer and, you know what I mean? Like, I've made it as the oldest child. Like, they can come over to my apartment. Like, all the things that they kind of wanted me to accomplish, I did, and then some. So you have nothing else but to respect me. And I think that's the most beautiful thing, that I've been able to earn my parents' respect while never compromising me. you know?
Yeah.
There might have been some distance throughout the journey. I mean, I went to school out of state and I was out of LA for 7 years, and I think that was me running away from home at a young age. But now that I'm older, I'm grateful that I can, like, the other day regañé a mi mamá and I was like, I don't mean to, but like I'm going to, like, you know what I mean, out of respect, but also like, Mom, that wasn't a very smart decision. And you know, I love that I can have that relationship with them now because it's honest, it's transparent, and it comes from a place of love, you know. And I was like, I think maybe nobody warns you that the adult that you have with your parents as an adult is better than the one that you have with them as children.
They're also on their journey.
Yeah.
And now we're the parents in some ways.
Or the tias and tios and tias. Yeah, it's funny because I'm trying to remember who I grew up with, like a queer representation. I was, as soon as I came out, I came out in San Francisco, which was a great place to come out. And la tarea que me dieron, the homework that I received was it had been off the air already, but was to watch, I was giving this big fat lesbian sex handbook, like, and then I was told to watch The L Word, even though it had been off for some years now. But that's the homework that I was given as I was coming out. But I mean, like, I feel like at that time still, it was like probably like 2011 or something like that. There really wasn't a lot more representation on the air that I can remember. But I'm trying to think of like who growing up. Well, she's not queer, I don't think, but like, I just remember having a big crush on her and just like her energy feeling very queer coded to me, and that's Kate del Castillo. Like watching her on novelas, I'm like, I don't know, but like I had definitely had a crush on her, and I'm like, she's gotta be queer, no?
That was wishful thinking for all of us, but yeah.
Yeah, I remember being a kid and watching her.
Castillo mueve tapetes to this day. I know.
The power she has, I'm just like in awe.
Listen, let me come and find out that a good Viana turns all of us on.
Okay, that's a good topic to segue. A mí no me de cuerda, porque
I'm over here, nerviosa.
most people think that all queer people are like I am, for example. I am a lesbian woman who already did the whole scientific approach to queerness, meaning try the hypothesis and see which one is positive or negative. And my conclusion, tell me you're an academic without telling me you're an academic. My conclusion was, I'm so lesbian, but lesbian, traditional lesbian, like but that's me. And there are fewer of us now because of the beauty of the spectrum of queerness. How has your experience with queerness and identity changed since you started the podcast?
Oh, okay, that's a good one. Since starting the podcast, I'll go.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say 10 years.
Oh, baby. I think for me, honestly, what started shifting a lot, primarily, it was once I started queerness and allowing what am I trying to say? Once I started allowing for relationship dynamics, in addition to the sexuality. You know what I mean? Because it's easy, o sea, un pinche pito es un pito, you know what I mean? But we also know that not all men have pitos and not all women have vaginas. Like, we also know that. And so when I think started allowing that, and by that same logic, I think when the people say the future is feminist or the future is this, no, the future is really queer, because if you align up our genitals correctly, despite of the like, we can reproduce queer families. Like, and it's you know, it might be two lesbians, it might be two gay men, a gay man and a lesbian, and there's a trans lover in here. Like, when you think about the possibilities, like, it's like, even from an evolutionary perspective, it doesn't make sense. So I really started enjoying the dynamics. I've become a little bit of a pup for many relationships. I mean, I'm not lying when I say the straight couples where it's like, damn, like, the man can do anything he wants with me, but I want to date the girl. You know what I mean? Like, fuck him. Let's go on our dates together. Like, that's been a lot of fun. siempre digo que yo no vengo a romper hogares, yo vengo a aportar al hogar. And so there's one couple where like one doesn't like running, but the other one is a runner. So I'm like, well, fuck him, I'll go on a run with you. Y el otro le gusta el desmadre y el otro no. Well, it's okay, I'll go over there. And so literally they're like, you're like our little third puppy. And I'm like, oh, but I'm the main
No,
bitch.
you're the equalizer. You're the equalizer.
Hey,
You're
I'm
the
just
prize.
I'm the feedback loop, girl. Like, I'm not here to fuck up your home. Like, go ahead, it's beautiful, do you. Nada más vengo aquí a aportar un ratito y ya me voy.
Tú disfrutas.
Well, one thing, I feel like we need to, ocupamos un librito of like best Nalgona quotes from Las Paleteras. Less Nalgona sayings. Yeah, I mean, I don't think that, I won't speak for César, but I don't think I've had as much of a transformation as Nalgona has in terms of their evolution just while we've been on this podcast, which I think has been really beautiful to witness in real time. But I think what I have experienced, even through us shooting, us working together, us collaborating, learning from each other, is I have asked myself, where am I maybe still putting myself in these boxes that come from heteronormativity? Yes, I said it right. And all these, and capitalism and patriarchy and all these things, like what boxes? Because you can do all the work that we've done, and still, because of the world that we live in, we still feel pulled by patriarchy. We still feel pulled by these systems that have oppressed us for so long, even though we know better, right? We know better, but it's easy to be pulled back into that. So I think that being on the show has allowed me to stay closer to like, where could I still be more liberated in my thinking and my being? And so that also does make me, although I'd still call myself a lesbian, I think, although I do prefer the term queer. I'm also seeing, like, el otro día, this past weekend, I met this, I was shooting a short this past weekend, and I met this man, and he had just such a soft, beautiful, like, introspective energy, and I'm like, am I feeling, like, I definitely feel chemistry with men, I just, like, haven't, like, taken it, had the desire to Nalgona let myself, like, but you know what, Nalgona has also been inspiring me in how he's opened them, or how they've opened themselves up to different possibilities, like, even if maybe I think this isn't a possibility anymore, maybe, yeah. And also that the dynamic, exactly, coming back to dynamics, like, it doesn't have to be, if I was to ever consider it, that dynamic doesn't have to be that I am the submissive if I was to be with a non, you know what I'm saying? So, like, I'm, there's the possibilities can be wider than we've imagined. Yeah. So I think
I always say, I'm cheering you on, Ana Sheila. I always say zero expectations, but mil posibilidades.
We gotta taste the rainbow.
So lean into the possibility.
I think it's that, and I think so. That's the questions that I'm asking myself, and that's also thinking about. We're also told, like, oh, these are the kinds of body types that I should be attracted to. And something that I think is really beautiful about queer women and non-binary folks is I feel like there is a wider expression and acceptance of different body types than you sometimes see with con gay men specifically.
You better say that.
Yeah. I feel like what you said, Ana Sheila, I feel the same way. I feel like I've just given myself more opportunity to explore and try new things, because I feel like a lot of times it's like, you're a bottom, you're a top, you're a verse, you're this, and it's like you fit into one and that's it. And I feel like throughout the last, like, I guess, like 3 years or 3 seasons, I've definitely allowed myself to, like, explore different things. I'm like, maybe I don't like this, but at least I'm gonna try it and, like, try everything once. And I've just been able to, like, lean into, like, different desires, or, like, I don't know, cosas quiero probar. So I've just been a lot more explorative is the word. I don't know, just having fun with, like, whatever there's engaging in different relationships, conversations, experiences, and checking stuff off the checklist.
I want to see that. I want to see that list.
We've corrupted each other after 3 seasons. Oh
Yeah.
Or have we freed each other?
Or have we freed each other?
Entre toda la carrilla, we're helping each other like jump into new experiences, new flavors, new.
David, no, cuando nos pregunten ¿y qué les gusta a las paleteras? Y nosotras, como caigan, bebé, como caigan.
Con chile, sin chile, dulce.
Ay, bebé. Hasta 2 chiles a la vez, como quieras.
Yamily's face is hilarious.
Pero el chile lo trae ella.
However, there is one thing that I have, and I wonder if you guys have discovered that as well. While I am sexually only attracted to women, like that, there's no discussion there. I do have platonic relationships, intellectual relationships with either men or women that are straight, because in my mind, and this is something that I often talk with the few straight people that I know, I just realized. Yeah, like 2, 3, without counting my brothers. Is that we do have the freedom, that this idea that now everyone is polyamorous or have, I mean, since Sappho's poems, we were already with that brand. I do think that it's impossible to pretend that one person is going to satisfy all of your needs, whether they're sexual, physical, intellectual, emotional, spiritual. So I am the kind of person that, of course, I have intellectual relationships sometimes with cis straight men, which I just realized that. Has that also opened possibilities for you, not only sexually? Because I do know that we have an artistry in that area, but intellectually, emotionally, spiritually, having different kinds of connections without necessarily being monogamous in the stricter sense of the term.
I mean, 100%, which is why, I mean, what I think at the root of what I shared, of what I'm attracted to now, and honestly, I think that's what's opened up the pansexuality of it all. You know what I mean? Pan in different genders, but pan in also like different intimacies, like you just mentioned, Yamily, right? Like, I think the interesting thing that I find, it happened to me last week. I did a comedy show, and I'm making this joke about how I'm attracted to straight couples. And there was a couple in the audience, and they were like smiling a little too hard. And I was like, but why are y'all smiling? And then I start blushing on stage. And it's all on video. I have to find this, because I was like, literally, like, I'm turning like this because I could not finish the joke, because I was like, he was so fucking beautiful, and then she was beautiful, but then she looked like ella tenía los pantalones in the relationship, that I was like, yo, she's gonna boss both of us around. Now we gotta show up, man. So I think, to your point, Yamily, once I started adding those sexually, there's some sort of thing that I'm attracted to, or certain energies, y así como caigan, and the whole time. Nos acomodamos, ¿no? My mom always said, no importa alto, pequeño, en la cama se miden igual. And I'm like, down. But then you start adding the elements of like the intellectual stimulation. You start adding like the spiritual. You start adding all the other elements that go beyond the sexuality, and it just opens up all these possibilities that you're like, how, going back to, to the earlier question, how do you trade this in another life? I'm sorry, but straight people have it really boring. And I'm like, I couldn't. No, I can't. O sea, to be able to self-create myself and the people and the things that I'm attracted to, like multiple times in one lifetime, girl, it's been a great journey.
Yes, I love that. We are designing. Dale.
I was gonna say, I feel like we live 5 lives compared to like most straight people. You know what I mean? Just like in our little discovery of like 10 years, we've already like experienced so much more in a way, even like sexually, but also just like internally too with ourselves. But you bring up a good point, too, because I feel like there's so many relationships that I've had that like have changed throughout the years. And I feel like growing up, a lot of my friendships and like school were like with girls, because that's like where I felt safe. Like they felt like primas, they felt like the safe space. So now growing up, I have a lot more cis straight like male relationships, like platonic, and I feel like in a way it heals a little bit of like my childhood, because I didn't have a lot of like straight male friends growing up. So I feel like now it's like like this weekend I was with my friend at Comic-Con for one of our short films, and I was hanging out with her brothers, and I'm like, I feel like a brother. Like, I didn't have brothers. I have a younger sister, but I'm like, I feel like a brother. I'm like, joke around with the boys, and she's like, at the end of the day, you're a man. And I was like, no, I'm a queer man, but I feel like I love the relationship that we have and the banter that we have, and then we could like go back and forth. But yeah, I feel like a lot of different relationships change, and I feel like a lot of straight people learn from us too. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of times we're like their one queer friend, and they're also getting like a taste of what this lifestyle has.
Yeah, I mean, I shared earlier in the show, like, I think that we've had to do a lot of work to free ourselves, and I think that, like, folks that aren't part of the community, o sea, they can be a lot more free themselves, and so hopefully we are inspiring them. But yeah, I think una pregunta que I'm always asking myself now and recently is, how can I love more? How can I love more? ¿Cómo puedo amar más? And I think that talking about romantic relationships, I did used to put all the weight on that one person. Like, they were my best friend. I was expecting to get everything from my romantic partner. And one of the beautiful things that I've learned in even in the last year is just that, yeah, that I can be romantic without it being sexual, and just and I've become so much more loving and affectionate with friends that I don't have necessarily a sexual connection, and it's been so beautiful.
And since we're 6 minutes, we have 6 minutes left. In a world like today, where on Sunday one of the queerest cities in the world had such a horrible attack against our community, which was Berlin, how can we keep celebrating joy and the authenticity that makes us who we are, despite having all odds against us?
I think the authenticity that we speak of, or because it's so hard, I think authenticity has become a buzzword in so many ways, right? And I think the authenticity that I choose to lead forward with all the time is like, while I did not choose my sexuality, I definitely choose my politic. You know what I mean? I intentionally wake up and say, this is who I am and this is who I'm presenting. I mean, it's been quite a very interesting journey the last 6 months in my own sobriety, and I talk about this on the podcast. But one of the things that is happening a lot is like people, antes, like there was a lot of like people would ask me about my gender pronouns, and people would ask me about like, or they, them. But now I get a lot more he, him, and with a lot of conviction behind the he, him. So and apparently to people, parezco vato. And I'm not mad at it. It's only an observation, right? And it just reminds me of the way that people perceive me and how to navigate the world. And so I think I say all that to say that when I think about how do we celebrate who we are when everything is stacked against us. Oh, bebé, como dice mi madre, el que me busca me encuentra. Y búsquenme, jotos, búsquenme, que se van a encontrar los ovarios. Shout out to Jenny Rivera. I think I've always been a peleonera, so I definitely am like, let the odds come for me. Let them come for me, que ahorita nos vamos a vengar todos. But no, I think that I say all that to say that I sit with the honor and the privilege that it is to be a queer person in this lifetime, particularly with all of the rights and the shoulders of the people that we stand on. And I don't take it for granted. And I think it becomes a reminder when things like Berlin happen, and all love to the folks in Berlin. It's a reminder para decir, pues, con más bulla, más desmadre, más jotería. Fuck it, let's go. Let me be times 25. You know what I mean? O sea, no sé. That's what comes to mind, to be louder.
Yeah, I'll jump on that. I think that in order to continue to, see the world that we want for ourselves, is we have to stay connected somehow to hope and joy, because if we're hopeless, there's nowhere to pull from to create what we want to see. And queer people, Black people, so many people, like, their rights were taken away, right? They didn't want us to exist, right? And so our imagination was taken away. They didn't want us to be able to imagine the world we want for ourselves. And I think that the only way that we can continue to create the worlds that we want for each other is to stay connected to joy and to hope and to radical imagination, and I think that's why I stay committed to staying connected to joy in the midst of suffering and grief that we have to see and experience every day.
Yeah, I agree with the both of you. I feel like, and that's something that we talked about in the podcast too, as we're filming, and like so many things were happening politically, a lot of news where like it almost feels heavy, or like there's a lot more crazy stuff happening in the world and we're having fun. But at the end of the day, like we have to find joy in like the little things that bring us together as community. And that was like an ongoing conversation we had where like there's so much happening politically, so much injustice, and we like found community within each other. And I feel like, yeah, just celebrating the little wins that keep us going, but then also making sure that we're there for our community when they need us. So definitely agree with the both of you on that.
And I really appreciate that you guys are still showing up every single day to do what our community really needs right now. And thank you so much for this conversation. I really, really appreciate it. It's been one of my... I forgot, of all the interviews I do, I think 1% are queer.
Yeah.
So this was really refreshing. Like, thank you.